Und natürlich treffen wir daher gemeinsam als Europäische Union entsprechende Vorbereitungen. Wir stimmen uns hier nicht nur als EU.
The one thing that has to be made clear, and they have made clear, that they will not be sending troops to fight in Ukraine. Ukraine is not a member of NATO, which means it's not covered by the vibe of collective security. Europe, NATO, the US are aware that this would risk sending troops to fight on the ground in Ukraine, will risk a nuclear war with Russia. And Putin is aware of that as well. He's come very close to openly blackmailing the West with its nuclear arsenal. And so that's not going to happen. Right now, there's a debate both within NATO and within each individual country, let's say Germany and US, about to what extent should Putin invade these countries individually and also as members of NATO, will support Ukraine, will support the insurrection that will surely arise to fight off the invaders. The Biden administration has not made clear what is going to be the extent of that help, but it's considering, and it's hinted that it will. Germany is at an impasse regarding this issue as well because of a divided government. The incoming Chancellor Stolz, is considered kind of soft on Russia, while Anne Baerbock, the new foreign minister, is considered more of a hawk. So it's not also clear what Germany's position is going to be. It seems like Germany is not even willing to contemplate right now strong sanctions, economic sanctions against Russia should it invade, including a potential cancellation of the Nord Stream 2 project. So Germany's position is a sticking point within Europe and within NATO. And Vladimir Putin is surely going to be using these conflicts and using Ukraine as a wedge issue to continue to divide West from inside each individual country and a West as a collectivity, whether EU or NATO.
Let's say that Russia will not invade Ukraine, but we all know that Russia has a very important weapon, if you want to call it, which is the gas. Do you think Russia will use it in this war against Europe?
That's a very pertinent question. And Russia is a supplier of over 1/3 of natural gas to Europe. Right now, as it stands, considering that storage capacity, the storage in Europe is pretty low, but not critically so, considering that the price of gas has gone up quite significantly by a factor of 7, I think, it is a serious weapon at Putin's disposal, and he knows that he can use it, and he's shown that he's been willing in the past to use it as blackmail. The Biden administration is very well aware of it. It's negotiating with Qatar and other countries to try to, ramp up supplies of Europe of liquefied natural gas. It's economically not feasible long term, simply because it's a much more complex logistically and more expensive option than straight gas shipments from Russia. But it seems like for as long as this remains the situation, for as long as Europe remains dependent on natural resources rather than, let's say, nuclear power and other sources of energy, Russia will be able to use gas as a blackmail against Europe. It will surely use it this time if it doesn't get what it wants. The Ukrainian government has sent contradictory messages to the West and to Ukrainian citizens about the situation. It's been kind of in denial from the very beginning of this current escalation that it was real. It seemed that the Western intelligence agencies were the first to try to ring alarm bells, and the government continued to kind of claim that there was no imminent danger. And it is continuing to do so. But the president has started talking about potential scenarios, Russia invading Kharkiv, a major city in the east, etc., which many have found not very helpful. And so there is a lack of discipline, I think, on the part of the Ukrainian government when it comes to messaging.
Okay. The president will reaffirm the United States' commitment to supporting Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity and our commitment to nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. But this is more of a check-in call.
What do you think Russia's biggest concern? Is it the NATO's expansion maybe, or is it just the fear of seeing their neighbor setting up a strong democracy maybe? What's your thought about that?
It's a combination of both. I do not believe that Putin's claims of NATO as a threat to Russia are credible. But once again, I cannot read his mind. I think he's using it for domestic purposes to try to shore up domestic support. It's always been the case. It's doubtful that this sort of overture, this sort of this situation this time will play as well as it did with Crimea. Annexation of Crimea was popular among Russians. An overwhelming majority supported it. It is far from clear that Russians continue to support aggressive actions against Ukraine. Popular polls say that most Russians are against this war, but I'm not sure that Putin cares about that all that much. He has said in the past that he considers the breakup of the Soviet Union as one of the greatest geopolitical tragedies of the 20th century. I think he has been now guided by a consideration that he wants to be written about in history books as a leader who, one way or another, started to kind of put the Soviet Union back together, not in the same form, but he's definitely very, very much concerned about trying to restore Russia's influence in what Russia calls its near abroad. We saw Russia's police action in Kazakhstan. We saw Russia's police action, mediation in the conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and Ukraine is a crucial component for Putin in this strategy.